Hello, my name is Kurtsahista, and this is It's Broken Game Iterations. Since this is the first episode, I'll explain in short what this series is all about. It's about making a topic that's interesting and discussable with the aim of criticizing game industry, companies, games, and whatnot. In this episode, I will be covering two game series as an example. There are many more out there, but these two will suffice. And those are Wargame and Men of War. Wargame European Escalation, aka the first Wargame, was released back in February 2012. It wasn't that popular because it wasn't hyped with marketing enough. And the game was really good, but it didn't bring anything new to the genre. Its predecessor was Ruse. Wargame Erlen Bell came out this year in May, and I did play alpha of it, and it's almost the same game as its predecessor, in which they added some new units, better engine, and airplanes. With that release, they already announced a new wargame called Red Dragon, where they will introduce amphibious stuff and bigger maps. So, as you can see, they're all standalone games not requiring anything from predecessors. Now, Men of War series suffers from similar stuff, with the original title and 4 standalone games slash expansions coming after, which were Men of War, Men of War Red Tide, Men of War Assault Squad, Men of War Vietnam, and Men of War Condemned Heroes, in that particular order. Each had almost the same units, different story, and a terrible voice acting, but I won't go into the details now. I don't know what was the cost of Men of War series on release dates. It was probably 30 plus euros, but I do know that for Wargame series it's 40 euros. So you might think I'm saying this game costs a lot, and that's why I made this. Not really. You can always get games on sale, so games being new and expensive aren't an issue. Hell, I bought most of my games on sales, bundles, and stuff like that. So back to the topic at hand, the major issue I have is community-wise. Men of War, from my point of view, did a little bit better because they released a specific standalone for multiplayer called Assault Squad. So they made community who wants to play multiplayer go play that, and they did that really good. So that basically says to the community, go play that for multiplayer purposes, and the other standalone titles are mostly single player oriented. So maybe that's fine, but couldn't they have done that with one game and everything else like an expansion for it? Because graphics are the same, units are the same, terrible voice acting is also the same. So now that I covered Men of War, let's say some more stuff about Wargame. Now with this series I was disappointed the moment I went to play Alpha of Erlen Bell. Some might say, well, Alpha is not a complete game. Yes, but I saw what it brought in, and it didn't bring in enough for me to buy Erlen Bell. Now why would I say that when I only played Alpha? Well, to me it felt like Erlen Bell shouldn't have been a new standalone game. It should have been an expansion, especially since they messed up with European Escalation release. By that I mean there wasn't even a proper skirmish in the beginning, so they released it like a free DLC, and there are honestly too few multiplayer maps. Now continuing that story, the real problem came out back in the winter of 2012-2013, when they were trying to hook people by giving free or cheap copies of European Escalation, which was then not yet a year old game. They're promoting European Escalation competition. I played it and it was fun for me. I got in alpha cause of it. So they were pre-marketing for LM Battle actually. Now I was really hyped back then, and then I played alpha, like I mentioned many times before. Now community wise that was the peak amount of players European Escalation had. And now there's little to none. So a game 21 months old is dead. I checked it yesterday. If you're seeing gameplay in the background, that was played yesterday, and it was 0 people in open lobbies. There are actually 98 people online for 21-month old game. That's really sad. That's really sad. And that's purely their fault. They could have released an expansion, maybe 2 DLCs for another year before making a new game. With new titles, there's always a problem that the game won't be good and there won't be enough players. But Most reviews of European Escalation were positive. The major problem was it wasn't that popular because it wasn't marketed well enough. And that's publisher's job. They need to publish games. But instead they rushed Erlen Bell and they destroyed European Escalation with that. It, it lost its potential. And the community that was in European Escalation migrated to Aerial Battle. Yeah, sure, that's fine. Oh, you got old community in new game, but you splitted it up because there are still people who won't buy Aerial Battle, and I'm like them. I know, for example, that there will be sales. There were already sales of Aerial Battle. You could have bought it for 20 euros, but I didn't. It's out of principle. So I'm going to give you an example of a game that has done everything correctly. It's a grand strategy game. It's also 21 months old. It has great community. It's moddable. It has great replayability, so that helps as well. And it's called Crusader Kings 2. So you might say, well, they had community before. Yes, but most of Crusader Kings 2 community is new. Old Crusader Kings came out way back. So you can't say Wargame didn't have a community before. It had Ruse, because it's almost the same game. So if devs of Wargame did that, what Paradox Interactive did, would the game succeed? I know I maybe covered more with Wargame, but I didn't really play Manowar until this year, so forgive me for not giving you more detailed report on how they did it. But I do think that both games are following the similar path, so that's why I covered them both. Although Manowar is now properly introducing Manowar 2. But like I said, this discussion is about game iterations. And this is my question to you. Do these small changes justify standalone games? Is the price justified? Are yearly sequels overrated? I would like you to ponder about that and answer in comments below, because answer to those three questions is no, no, and yes. Yearly sequels are definitely overrated, especially in these small time frames. And you know what? I really liked both games gameplay wise, but if you're going to release games like this almost every next year, I'm not going to buy them. I will wait for years if I have to and buy them when they're on sale. That's how I acquired Manowar, in some bundle sale for $2 or $3. So you might think, well, you can't play competitive and multiplayer games then. I can, if the community is still alive. For European Escalation, the community is dead. My name was Kursohista. The rest I leave it to the people who I think for listening and watching this, so please comment, agree, disagree, like, dislike. Give me criticism, I'll be happy to reply to everyone, and stay tuned until next time, when I will be talking about changing the game dramatically, or nothing at all can be positive or really bad. Ciao.